In this video, we're going to look at the midpoint of line segment. So suppose you have a line here where it's 5 across, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 up. So to find the midpoint of this line, you would get to find the midpoint, you would look at it horizontally. Horizontally is 5. You would get a 5, and then you would cut it in half. So that would then give you the x location. And then to get the midpoint here, you would look at it vertically. Vertically is 2. You would cut the vertical in half. That would then give you the precise location of the midpoint. So now let me give you another example. Let's say you've got a point floating in the middle of nowhere, 1 across and then 4 up. And then you've got another point, P2, where it's floating in the middle of nowhere, 5 across and then 2 up. If you want to know the midpoint of the red line, if you want to know the precise location here, you would look at it horizontally. Horizontally is 5, and then you would add it to, well, to get the midpoint here, you would get the average of the two. You would get the average of this and this. So to get this midpoint here, you would get a 5, and then looking at this point here is 1 across. It's 1 across. So you would get 5 plus 1, and then cut it in half to get the average of the two. So that would be 6 divided by 2. That would be 3. So it would be 3 across. 1, 2, 3. So you can see it lines up here. So vertically, to get the midpoint now, we would need to consider looking at it vertically. So looking at it vertically, it's 4 up, and then looking at it vertically, it's 2 up. So you would get 4 plus 2, get the average of the two. So that would be 3. So it's actually 3 up. 1, 2, 3. So you can see. So to get the precise location of the midpoint, you would get the average of the two in the x direction, and then you would get the average of the two in the y direction. It even works in the negative realm. So let's look at this example. Here the location here is 3 across, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 up. This point here, it would be negative 1 and then 2 up. So to get the midpoint, let's look at it horizontally. Horizontally is 3 across, and then we would add negative 1. So we would add negative 1. So that would be, this thing here would be 2. 2 divided by 2. Well, to get the average of the two, that would be 1. So you can see, to get the midpoint here, looking at it horizontally, it would be 1 across. So you can see it lines up. Now let's look at it vertically. So here, looking at this point, is 2 up. Is 2 up, and then looking at this is 1. So get the average of the two. So that would be 1.5. So you can see, looking at it, so it's 1, 1.5. So it even works even if you're in the negative realm. So in general, let's extend this to 3D space. So let's say in 3D space you've got a point floating in the middle of nowhere in 3D space, and then you've got another point, P2, floating in the middle of nowhere in 3D space. Well, to get the midpoint, you would look at it in the x direction. You would get the average of the two. So remember, this thing here, this midpoint represents the location of the midpoint. The location floating in the middle of 3D space will be you looking at this plus this, and then getting the average of the two. So that will then give you the location in the x direction, and then this plus this, get the average of the two. So that will then give you this, and so on. So the midpoint, the location of the midpoint floating in 3D space will be given by this. Okay.